States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What is your pleasure with the consent agenda?
I move to be accepted as presented.
Seconded. Any discussion?
I have a couple of things if I could point them out.
Yeah.
The Board of Assessors meeting minutes, the date is actually April 17th.
Not the 18th?
Correct.
Okay, so that should be amended.
And on the minutes of the actual April 18th meeting, which was the select board meeting, when it depicts the ARPA projects, it's not quite accurate.
Okay.
For example, the carpeting, there was no carpeting on the,
Okay.
listed on the projects. So I can give Carly the actual list of
Okay.
ARPA projects to put in the minutes.
Okay.
And I know Suzanne read it at the meeting, but it didn't get translated correctly.
Okay. With notation of the needed amendments, shall we approve?
I will change my motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? The next select board meeting will be Thursday, May 9th at 5:30 at the fire hall. And that's so that we can have the informational session for the annual town budget meeting at 6. And that will be on May 16th at 6 p.m., the annual budget meeting at the West Bath School. First item of business, request for proposals for legal services. I trust we've all had a look at it.
So, this doesn't give the option to go to potentially 2 different firms, doesn't really highlight that sufficiently. Because we have on one piece in here where they say to work on the ordinances, and if you're not the firm working on the ordinance, then you, in theory, can't apply for the RFP. So I think we need to segment that out, that we have potentially a designation of either a municipal attorney or an ordinance attorney, or can accommodate both.
Okay, it's all municipal, so
But
I'm not sure that that would work, Suzanne, but what would you suggest?
Well, it says,
What part of the?
item number 2 says prepare, review,
Item
and
number
revise
2.
ordinances and policies. If you can't do that as just, you know, if you're not doing just the ordinance, if you're not doing the ordinance side, in theory, you shouldn't be participate, you should have, it needs to be designated. I think that we're making this so that a firm who wants to do just the municipal town business versus the ordinance business may not apply for this.
I would need to know from the board where to include that language in the RFP and what to say. Because I think when it talks about the ability to negotiate, I think that gives you the authority, but if you want to expand on that, that's fine. I just need to know where to put it and how to put it.
Well, so in the last sentence of the first paragraph, the proposal should make note of the firm's expertise in municipal law and land use, and it should say and or land use. Because we're considering 2 separate firms potentially.
What
It's right, it says qualifications of legal counsel.
Oh, on page 2.
It should say and or land use, and then say, we are considering 2 individual firms or 1 firm that can accommodate both.
Do you want to limit it to one or two? There is a section in here that covers special counsel, so you're always allowed to, hire somebody or get counsel from an attorney with a special,
Right.
so you can always do that.
We'll just say we're contemplating individual or multiple firms.
Could you put that down on scope of services? And I'm just wondering if that sentence may or may not include, I'm just wondering if we can.
Yeah, I don't know where to put it, but I think we need to address it, that it accommodates an individual firm that can do all, or individual firms that can only do their specialty.
That way we're not locking ourselves in and it gives us a little wiggle room.
Absolutely.
We name it all and put may include.
May, yes.
Would that work with selection?
Or, you know,
On the first page, page 1.
I did add that portion in red.
That wasn't in the first one. And the select board further reserves the right to negotiate separately.
I think we need to be specifically mention that an individual firm may accommodate all of our needs, or individual firms may represent only their areas of specialty. And/or, I think it's just, I don't want to not have a firm participate in the RFP because they didn't feel that they could represent all of it instead of part of it. Because we talked about having a firm specifically responsible for just the ordinances, and all the other elements would fall into that, I'll say the other side of the municipal needs. And I don't think it's clear that that's what we're looking for here.
Okay. Well, presentation phase.
I said may consider having two firms participate representing ordinance initiatives and/or municipal needs. I said multiple firms. I want people to, I don't know how to word it, but. I think it should go into the qualification of legal counsel, really, because it's either you're qualified in ordinance, or you're what is your expertise? So the proposal should make note that the firm's expertise in municipal law and/or land use ordinance an individual firm may apply for one or both areas of focus. I mean, I think it's really about the qualifications piece, because that's either you're going to be ordinance.
I think after, the proposal should make note of the firm's expertise in municipal or and/or land use,
Which item you want, Kathy?
qualification of legal counsel.
Yep.
Maybe some reference to may apply for one or both somehow,
One or yes.
areas of, because we want to make sure when they send us the application that we know what they're applying for. Is it
Right.
all of it or one of it?
Wait, that's what I think, so,
And make sure they don't misunderstand.
right. If they think they can't, they only want to do ordinance,
Right.
then how do they not, should they apply or not apply in the other one?
Or we need to return and or if.
Actually, the town is pursuing firms that may represent land ordinance or municipal legal needs, or both.
What if we use the wording applicants should note if, if or whether, if they are interested in either land use or municipal law or both, or interested in serving the town.
Please make sure you designate your area of expertise on the application.
Well, we do have that.
But if they're only gonna do ordinance, I think we need to be clear that if they're only interested in ordinance.
Then their proposal. Proposal, if we put that into qualifications, the proposal should make note of the firm's expertise in municipal law and land use. An applicant should note that they are interested
In one or both.
in serving the town in either land use or municipal law or both.
Just say, make sure you, yes, and they designate, share your areas of expertise on the application, so that we're not considering them for both when they only want an ordinance. So we should add that, and maybe add that to the,
Proposal form or?
yeah, add a line item, municipal ordinance, land use, municipal, or both. Check all that apply, I guess, something like that.
Where were you?
On the proposal form?
Proposal form, maybe just an idea of what they're actually proposing.
Area of expertise.
That would make it fair, right on the form. If we added that,
I think we should have one small sentence added to qualifications and then add either or both on the proposal page.
that would work. Under the last,
There's that one sentence under qualifications of legal counsel.
yeah. Put in the applicants. That sentence, and then,
Please select your areas, your, what do you call it, areas that were legal.
if under,
I would say under, or please designate your firm's area
Maybe just,
expertise on the proposal.
that could be indicated after travel on the proposal form.
yeah, it could go actually there, or it could go, just where it had a long that's there.
Right.
You just have like a checkbox, land use, municipal, both, and that's it. That way, I just want to make sure that they understand.
So if we add that sentence,
So that I think gets the, helps them to designate their area of expertise, and I'd like to add potentially an item 12 on page 3 to review employment relationships with town employees upon request by select board to ensure compliance with legal requirements. also under item 11. It says, since individual select board and committee members have no legal authority to incur expenses on behalf of the town attorney is not authorized to provide legal counsel to them individually except for the select board chair. So I think any of the 3 elected officials should have access to our attorney. And I've got when I've reached out to Sally in the past, because we seem to not have a specific position. A note from Sally from January 31st of 2022 says, Suzanne, my law firm's longstanding practice with West Bath is we only speak with individual select board members if the full board has authorized it. I don't think that happened when the select board chair was negotiating an employment contract without our input. So I think we need to revisit how we connect with our town attorney.
It has long since been the practice that the select board chair can have contact with town attorney. It was that practice when I was previously the chair, it was the practice before I was the chair, and I don't see any reason to change that at this point.
I can appreciate your position on that, Madeline, but however, you pursued a conversation with our town attorney and never included any of the dialogue with Kathy or myself in the pursuit of a contract that we had no knowledge was being discussed. That I have an issue with. So that's my concern, is that, and I don't think any one, because again, we all have the same equal authority. The only difference between the select board chairs that they run the meetings. Outside of that, we all have the same legal position. So I therefore think all 3 of us should have the same legal access to our town attorney when necessary. And it was even noted by our town attorney that it needs to, at a minimum, be acknowledged by the 3 of us or by the majority, and that did not happen.
It has not happened yet.
It has happened. We paid for that in your dialogue with the town attorney over an employment contract that Kathy and I were completely unaware of.
That is not exactly true.
Kathy, did you know there was a negotiation on a contract going on?
So I agree and disagree. I do think that the chair should not be talking to the attorney in this. The board agrees.
100%.
I don't think we all can be talking to the attorney because I think that's going to get cumbersome. So I am.
So we can have a designated individual based upon, it doesn't necessarily have to be the chair. It should be an individual who is deemed appropriate for that dialogue then. It should not fall solely under the chair's
I don't
authority.
disagree with that, but I think it has to be on record that that was what was agreed upon.
That the select board chose an individual from the select board to be that individual for legal counsel. I'm okay with that too, but I don't think it falls to one person to determine the path of the board.
I would agree.
So then I'll make a motion. I move that select board dialogue with legal counsel will be an individual selected, or I say designated by the select board to pursue that legal purpose.
I would also think we should put back, and that individual will report back to the board
On a regular basis.
what was discussed.
At every
our
meeting.
options, because I think it doesn't always trickle down.
Yes, I agree with that. That should report back to the select board
Yeah, so.
every time,
Yeah,
anytime, following any meeting, what transpired in that conversation. I agree with that, Kathy.
I think it's just transparency.
100%.
Is that a motion?
You're gonna add that on?
Yes. I move that the select board designates a representative to pursue legal discussion as needed and reports the findings of that discussion back to the board at the next appropriate meeting.
I'll second that.
Is there further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? We still have the wording for the applicants that has not been made a motion.
I'm sorry, the word for the what?
The dual possibility of applying for either in or.
I didn't know if that was a motion, I was just gonna be added to our contract, I just chose to make a motion for our legal.
Okay.
I don't know if that, I mean, if that needs to be a motion, we can,
If
it's
we're
just
going
an
to,
edit.
if we're going to change this, it should be a motion.
I don't necessarily, I didn't tie that to the legal contract. That, I just decided that in the moment to bring that forward. I mean, we can, this is really just edits to the language of the contract. I don't think we're moving on the contract language.
So are we just changing?
That was just generic, I mean, well,
Yeah.
yes, that should be changed in here, but that,
Right, but the other two things was qualifications of legal counsel to, the proposal should make note of the firm's expertise in the municipal law and or land use, and then adding,
that to the proposal form.
yes.
I don't know if that needs to be a motion, just an amendment to the language in the contract.
I don't think it needs to be a formal motion. I could just make the amendments and
And we'll look at it
bring
again.
it to the next meeting.
Yeah, that'll work. Which is next week.
And our, when, I just have a question, when is this, I see when the proposals are in, when would the contract begin?
Well, as soon as we need one July 1,
Yeah, I would
so to
suggest
speak, as soon
July
as
1st.
possible. I mean, or, yeah, because we don't
If you're
have,
able to make a decision, I would suggest July 1st.
Should that be in there?
I think it would, because we don't want any misunderstanding of
Yeah.
when they're supposed to start. If they say, oh, well, I thought I could start September 1st.
well, we put it under proposal submitted, it says due by May 30th, and then you just say, or you can put it in the header, legal counsel.
Right after, as is legal counsel beginning July 1st, 2024.
That contracted law services.
I think legal counsel is solicits proposals from attorneys or legal firms to represent the town as its legal counsel beginning July 1st. Is that all?
Madeline, would it be possible for me to take that language that you looked at, or do you need it?
Nope.
Just the one that you hand wrote on the back of the paper?
That's my agenda.
You can have it at the end of the meeting.
After the meeting.
I can give it to you later.
Okay, that'd be helpful, please.
Okay. Item 2, annual budget. Town meeting warrant, review and approval. I presume you've had a chance to review.
We have, and I have one question.
Questions?
I gotta find it, hold on. Article 5, under building maintenance,
Mhm.
I thought we had $2,000 allocated for pests. What's the other $7,000 in that?
Okay. I think it might help if you refer to the other paperwork that I gave you, titled Select Board Requests, and I can explain how that came about.
Where is that in there?
It's a separate document.
It's
It's a printout from Trio.
right after, finishing.
Oh, this, yep, I see it, the whole, okay, yep.
If you go to page 6, you'll see the yellow highlighted at the bottom where it says Town Admin. And that is considered a department. The warrant is organized, generally speaking, by department. So when it says to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for town administration, it's talking about all of the departments, or all of the divisions and expenses that come before that yellow highlighted mark. So from pages 4 through pages 6 appear in Article 5 on the warrant. So when you're looking at building maintenance, which is on page 6, you'll see the header under account 0321, and it says Town Admin Office Building Maintenance. In this particular area, building maintenance is the division. So when you see building maintenance on the warrant, that's the total for the division. And the division includes the expenses of cleaning and paper supplies, the security alarm, the, an expense line that is also titled building maintenance and lawn care.
So then,
So it encompasses paper supplies, the security system, the building maintenance, and the lawn care, which totals $9,000.
so in the office cleaning of $7,000 on Article 5 above that.
That's on the previous page. That is a division on its own, office cleaning, and it's at the bottom of page 5. So the warrant is organized in a very specific way.
So does the total of what the planning board?
The budget committee, yes. Yes, because they were looking, like I said, building maintenance is a division, but it's also an expense. So because of our accounting structure, that creates confusion because it appears in 2 places. But building maintenance on page 6.
It has the $2,000 that the budget committee recommended, and the
This
select board voted for.
Right. This
Plus the other
$2,000
expenses.
is
Yes.
what the budget committee voted for under building maintenance.
Right, and what the select board.
All of these other items were also
That,
included. So the total is $9,000. And this is the way it's been, at least since I've been here. I mean, our accounting structure has not changed. So I understand there's more questions this year, but this is the way we've been doing it, at least since Suzanne and I arrived. And I don't think the accounts have changed since Julie's been here, really.
is there a way in Trio going forward to make that a little clearer?
We could change the titles,
So,
but I have to say there's some resistance from Julie as the treasurer to change titles or accounts, because you lose the continuity and you lose the history. And she has said, right, I understand, but she has said before, it's a discussion we need to have with her, because she is the treasurer, so it's her responsibility. Can it be done? Yes. But it needs to be talked through.
Can we put that on an agenda for late June, so that we could maybe get the changes
Sure.
and notation made by
So
the next
when we
year?
talk about agendas for late June, is there some way to have I know we're a little off track here, but we talk about, there's a couple of things that I thought was going to be on tonight's agendas that aren't here. Is there a way to hold us accountable that when we say something's going to be on an agenda, it shows up? Like if we say late June, are we going to get into September and we still haven't?
Okay, I don't have.
Well, and I think before we even had, because we also talked about having our running reports with tallies. You know, so if I look here and I see we've got a computer technology expense of $50,000. As we pay out of that account, if you look at the page 4, you've got professional contracts for $49,000 and $1,000 in supplies. You know, how do, or you know, this holds true for the road or any other designated account. You know, we want to see where we stand year to date on expenses.
Isn't that included in the summary report? that we
It's
get?
included in the summary, but I understand what Suzanne's saying because you're not getting a full picture. And that's also something that should be discussed with Julie because.
Okay.
So I think we should talk with Julie, find out what, because it's always been an extended time frame.
Yeah.
Before we say, can you do this on this date, let's figure out what we need to do first.
And what she
And then-
can do, what Trio has the capacity to do.
Before we even put it on an agenda, let's figure out what's possible.
Yeah, and it's possible that she's going to need to create another report, which is doable, but
I don't want to commit to
I
it.
don't want to commit.
I don't want to commit to a date right now until we figure out what we're looking
What
for.
I want to submit though is we keep, this stuff keeps coming up on the agenda, even if we have to include it every
Time until it's achieved,
and we
yes.
say we're not there yet.
Yep.
Because somehow, from January 1st, and then we get to December 31st, we haven't even talked about what we said we were going to talk about in January.
And there's been stuff that's been on the agenda for years, it's not been completed yet,
If
so.
we have a select board meeting on the 2nd of May, and then the 16th is town meeting.
Why wouldn't we carry agenda items forward until they're resolved? even
I think we should.
At each meeting.
I think we should.
You can,
Can we talk about a possibility of having a meeting with Julie on the 23rd of May, so that we can,
that's
We
after
can-
town meeting.
Yeah, but
It's
we should be feeling,
I won't be here. I'm traveling that week. I can do it the next week.
I think that would be
I'm
better.
actually gonna be on vacation,
on
so
the 30th? Well,
that's the only time that I could choose that we weren't having meetings.
is there another,
So I would say the first week of June.
would that give us time to actually be able to put stuff in place by the,
Well, see, I don't want to make, that's where I don't want to make the commitment until we speak to Julie on what we need. I mean, we ask
That's
for
why I
input.
that's why I'd rather do it earlier rather than later, so that we can start the fiscal year with.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good sense of what you need, and I could certainly get a conversation initiated with Julie so that she knows what we want to talk about.
How about we get a report on the status report, and then decide what, you know, what is Julie's position on it, how long is it gonna take to achieve? I don't wanna commit to something that we can't do, but at least put it up for the discussion.
Speaking with Julie is the first order of business, so we need to,
Right, she'll tell you what her concerns are, and we can discuss how we could work around that.
David had his hand up quite a while.
oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. Just can you clarify what is in that 9,000 maintenance account?
The $9,000 building maintenance division, it's not just one expense account, it's a division. It's the paper supplies that we have here at the town office. So paper towels, stuff like that. The alarm system, which I'm surprised it's not under utilities, but it's not. It's under building maintenance. The pest control, which is the $2,000 that the budget committee recommended, and lawn care.
For 3,300.
So $400 for paper supplies, $3,300 for the alarm, $2,000 for pest control, and $3,300 for lawn care.
That's it, we're going to single ply toilet paper.
It's more expensive.
Well, I'm kidding.
So my goal and thought would be, and I know it doesn't, at the end of the year, we would see that that was what was spent in those accounts and
Right.
receipts to show, but
And you
when
don't see that.
we don't see.
We don't
that.
see
That's
that.
why-
You don't see it now, but that's what you would see.
Right. Well, I think it's fair, you know, and this probably holds most importantly for the road commissioner, where he knows what he has and what he spent and how he can move forward. We've got some sizable accounts that, you know, and I look at a $49,000 in contract services for our computer. That seems like a lot of money to me, but I don't know what we're getting for it.
Well, as was discussed with the budget committee,
I'm just
that's
saying-
all of our IT support and our licensing fees, and it's expensive.
To go back to conversation with Julie. Clearly, if all three of us are going to be involved, it needs to be a public meeting. And it would make sense to me that we change the categories if they need to be changed before July 1st, when the new fiscal year begins. So meeting with Julie would be of the utmost importance. As soon as possible, it would seem to me.
So do we want to make that?
I would like us to have a date specific that we would see if Julie could meet with us by.
Well, is it possible that you could meet ahead of town meeting?
Well, the 9th, I was thinking the 9th, we don't have a significant, I mean, right now, what do we
I mean,
have?
the 9th isn't actually a meeting, you could have a meeting on the 9th.
Well, I
But
thought-
that's actually just the informational session.
Right.
Well, I thought we were having a meeting at 5:30 on the 9th, followed by a 6 o'clock informational session. That's how this agenda reads,
That's correct.
right? So
Yes, that was actually a typo on my part.
So there we have a
But
30-minute
you could.
meeting. We have a
30
topic.
minutes, it might not be enough.
I don't think 3
It
minutes
might
would
be
be
enough for, get Julie thinking
Right.
about what we're looking for, maybe go back and think about it and.
One,
Okay,
what
so you
was-
don't want to start at like 5 or something?
I could start at 5.
Yeah, I could too.
I mean, just to give yourselves a little bit of
I think starting at 5 on
time.
the night, if Julie can be there, if she doesn't have previous obligations, would be a really good thing.
We already have a half an hour slated, so.
And I'm sure you will discuss with Julie before the night.
Yes.
The content of this discussion. So that.
I mean, she may be able to pull sample reports. She may, who knows how hard or easy this could be. I mean, it may be just something in the computer she could.
This is the report that you would see. The question is this sufficient, or do you need something that you can understand better?
This is not sufficient.
See, this is what I'm saying, she's going to have to create something different.
Right.
All that needs to be done though is attached to what those, where those funds went, not just to count them.
Well, it does.
On some of them.
Well, the payroll, it won't say.
Right. Payroll is just payroll.
But again,
She may be able to
yeah.
create a report. I'm guessing there's the capability, we just
Well,
haven't
you know what,
dabbled
it'd
in
be
it.
nice to have this report before we meet with Jill.
Maybe she might be able to pull it. She, don't- you know, who knows how, or what her thoughts are.
I want to see what it could be like at this point.
And you'll want to look beyond the payroll lines, because the payroll lines won't say anything, so go like to the middle of it.
So we've got town hall phones, town hall telephone, town hall monthly. So we should have, you know, salt shed cameras. So that I presume is a utility item, is all their utilities.
Well, that's part of the discussion that needs to be had. Is it a utility or is it building maintenance?
And if you do decide to move accounts around or relabel them, the auditor may need to get involved.
Right.
Just so you're aware that this might go beyond what the treasurer can do.
Right. If possible, it would be nice if we could start the fiscal year with different, more accurate, clearer designations.
Balance is available in each account would be helpful too.
Yeah, a running tally is
All that.
In the,
Sir.
in the budget, the proposed budget packet we receive, it lists every division, but it also lists all the different,
subcategories.
Expensive.
so you should list all the subcategories, not just the division. And you can see where the $400 went from whatever, not just the whole division. Just break it down like the budget's broken down, proposed budget's broken down. Instead of lumping it all together. When it's lumped together, you can't see where the money went, besides that total package.
Right.
And we
But if you
also see
look-
when we have big amounts left over, why didn't we spend?
But the budget proposal we get breaks it down line item by line item,
Right,
and
so
then there's a total.
if we get a lot.
Are you suggesting the breakdown go on the warrant?
No, I'm
No,
Oh,
just your
suggesting.
report.
I'm trying to understand what you're.
We're talking about their report, right? So
The
I'm talking about
report,
their
yes.
report. Break it down item, line item by line
Yeah.
item. So you can tell that $400 went, or that $10,000 went, not just a heading.
And the trio report does that,
We
but
have it
it's
here.
not easy for everybody to understand.
Well,
Right.
it's pretty simple on the budget proposal we get. It
Well, and
says,
it's, but it's, I'm looking at it, so it has said right here, it's got snow removal, item 10, or account 10. It's got road expense, which is salt and sand. Then it goes down to contracts, and it goes down to contracts for J.R. Hill or Mark Travis. So it does, we see it. But what we don't see on here is the starting balance, and then the
Well,
taking
that's
those,
on there too.
no. It
Starting
doesn't-
balance and ending balance.
this is what I'm referring to.
You may approach.
It breaks down into every item, expense. So if you see this as a report, you can tell where the money went, not just the total
Right.
where it went.
So here's the report we have. How does that,
That's what's currently possible.
But this is just year to date and everything.
I'd like to see that, though. I'd rather see that year over year. That I'd rather
It's
see.
a cleaner breakdown.
I like that.
Maybe, David, you should be part of that meeting. Really?
I'm
Actually,
sure he will be.
But I do like that. I like to see where we are year over year. Also.
Well, now that we've seen what we don't see and what we ought to see, do we wish to have some kind of date?
Well, Julie can make it on the 9th. Let's see if that works.
Okay,
That work? I mean, we don't have any other thing. Right now, there's nothing scheduled for that.
okay, so is this going to be a public meeting or executive session?
Well, it will
No,
have to be published.
Public.
Mhm.
Okay, just so that we're clear about that. All right, so, are there more questions about the warrant itself?
No, I don't have any.
Do we have a motion to provide this to the town as the warrant for the budget annual meeting?
I have one question on it, actually. Where do we list what we have in ARPA funds and how, I thought we just got where they were going? Is that positioned on this?
Is on here, let me find it, Article 20. I try to keep it very simple because we don't know how much each project is going to cost. So I came up with to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to use at its discretion, meaning you will vote each time funds are taken from ARPA. for the following purposes, the remaining $40,528.89 in funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act. And then we have fire hall, rear roof, rear entrance door, and insulating cellular shades. ADA accessible door openers to be installed at the town hall and the fire hall. Town hall generator, and town hall exterior building repairs.
That should be clear now.
I tried to keep it simple so that you had some latitude in how you got those projects done, assuming that there's enough money to
Right.
complete those projects.
So let me ask, when are we responsible to use those funds, use or lose?
They need to be committed by the end of this year. So December 31st of 2024, they need to be committed.
Not necessarily expended.
Correct.
So, not this is likely to happen, but let's say we have money left over after all this.
Oh, I think we can find something.
But do we have to, but
Useful.
yeah, but if we don't list it here,
You can have an easy special town meeting to appropriate the rest of the funds if you needed to.
should we put that in there, remaining funds will be allocated to building repair?
I'm gonna tell you, that what's on there is gonna cost more than
Yeah.
what we have.
I think it is too, but I just didn't want to lose it if we didn't have it allocated. I want to make sure that we spend
We
it.
went through this opera fund thing already with Saginaw.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I suspect that by the time.
I think we will spend it.
There's no question in my mind that we will have expended,
My guess is we don't have enough to do all of that, to be
Right.
honest with you.
and it's going to be up to us. Because it's authorizing the select board to use at its discretion. So then we have to be discreet and figure out what needs to be done. And I suspect that it's the, making the fire hall warmer and ADA accessible. By the time we do that here and at the fire hall, I think that we'll spend most of it.
Building repairs are necessary too, though, we've got building rot. That's important too.
Well, there's nothing on here that isn't important, so we have to make the tough decisions. That's why the taxpayers have elected us. Bless them. Okay. Purposes of moving us along, I move that we accept the budget as printed, accept the warrant as printed for the annual budget town meeting, and authorize Jonathan Bean, Constable, to post it.
I second it.
Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Do we need to elect a moderator or whatever?
No, Joel's gonna monitor.
Is he? Okay, I don't think I do officially do
We
that
just
though.
need this page signed. So Carly can have it posted.
That's nice. Okay, town administrators report.
I have only one item tonight. It's actually a request. After the Spirit of America ceremony last week, those of us who attended took Ron and his wife and his son out to lunch. This wasn't anything that was pre-planned necessarily, and we didn't ask permission in advance if this was something that could be taken from contingency. So the amount that we spent for 8 of us was $257.36 at Pepper's Landing. And I am asking if I could possibly be reimbursed for that amount. This is what this is.
So moved. Is there a second? In case of a second, I guess we'll divvy it up.
Okay. I need the receipt back.
These are all here for you at the end.
Oh, okay.
Okay, future agenda items.
Well, we've got Julie potentially on the 9th. So I guess at the last meeting, we talked about getting Kathy and I a copy of the paperwork and the contract that you've been negotiating. Can you get that to us, Madeline?
I certainly can. I would prefer that we do that in executive session.
Well, you've already had the opportunity to review it, and I myself would like that meet, talk about that 2 weeks that we're going to be giving to Christine to get out to us. I think that we should have the same luxury of reviewing that in advance of the meeting that you've had, and I'd like to have it in advance of that meeting. So is it possible for you to get that to Christine so we can have it next week?
We can review it, but it needs to be in executive session, so we would need to put an executive session on the agenda.
We can do that, but I'm not talking about reviewing it, I'm talking about reading it myself. You've had that luxury to read through your negotiations. I think Kathy and I have the right to see that as well.
Is there a reason executive session was canceled for the night?
Suzanne asked that the attorney be present, and I could not call the attorney and ask her to be there, so
Right.
it put me in an awkward position because I haven't been involved.
Because that is not, it's one selectman, it's not all three of us, so.
So, you know, if you want Alyssa to be at the meeting, that's great, but somebody needs to be directed to ask her to be there.
So these are two different subjects, but they're related. One, I think Kathy and I should have the luxury of reviewing a contract that's as it sits today. Prior to us arriving at the executive session, we should have the same.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking, can you get that paperwork to Christine so she can get it to Kathy and I by Monday of next week? You already have it, it's a simple email. I'd like that so that all three of us are on the same page. That's my first request. The second request is, I move that we have the town attorney present at an executive session to discuss the employment contract.
Second.
On process.
Yeah. Take a look at it.
I'm not sure why, here's my thought process, why we would do that when we may need them after we look at the contract. So I'm just wondering, do we pay double, or do we pay once, or?
Well, we've already paid for the writing of the contract. You and I just need a chance to look at it. But that will allow us to have a conversation with them. You and I will then be on the same level playing field with Madeline to have that dialogue, but I think that dialogue should be with the town attorney. So that's why I'm asking, can we get our review in advance?
My only thought process, should we, and I don't know, you may be right, should we be talking to Christine
Well, I don't know what the contract says.
first?
The contract is simply an update of.
I think I'd like to talk to the attorney prior to going further down the path. I have some questions.
So what attorney?
The current attorney that Madeline's been talking to.
Okay. Are they still there?
Yes.
Okay.
So are we proposing having an executive session at the convenience of the attorney.
Yes.
Yes.
Is,
So is that a second? I
I'll
guess.
second.
Okay.
okay, so please review the motion.
I move that we have the town attorney, who we've been in dialogue with, present at the executive session to discuss the contract at their earliest convenience.
And that was seconded, yes. Okay, all in favor? Now, I have a further question. Suzanne, would you please make your travel dates available to Christine as soon as possible so that we do not run into the same kind of confusion that happened last time as we were trying to deal with the assessing issues?
Sure. I mean, I always try and keep my first and third Thursday open for town businesses, that's my commitment. But my job just takes me out of town. I do my best to get back in time. If we know what the time frame is, I will alter my travel schedule if necessary to meet that demand, because I believe it's that important. But I will lay out what I have for the next 2 months. If we go beyond that, we'll see what happens.
Okay, any further agenda items?
We kind of passing talked about it, but we didn't agree to it. I would like to see a running agenda with things that we have not completed, even if we table them at that meeting so that we don't lose track of them.
That's a great idea, Kathy.
Okay, the traditional way of doing that is old business, new business. Should we arrange the agenda to?
Sure.
I'm fine.
And I think we should also try, and when we put things on the agenda, to give them a due date.
In some way to track that.
Right.
Because we do it.
We do, but we don't follow up on it.
I will start tracking that. So,
Yes.
it's just a matter of me bringing the paper and.
I was thinking of getting a little notebook,
Yeah.
and put it on a notebook.
So,
I agree with
make
that.
it complicated.
No, I think we get lost in the weeds and forget stuff that's important.
To your best recollection, at the next regular board meeting, did you list those things that we have let fall by the wayside, so that we can get them onto the running agenda?
And I'll pull
Henceforth and forthwith.
I'll pull all of mine, anything that I've written down too that we put down. We'll
Yeah, I
just-
think that would be helpful, because we were sitting here last year talking about budgets and way to make them clearer and having.
And here we are.
Yeah. Part of that is time flies, but. So, my next question is, where are we with commitment? I mean, all those abatements, are we looking for anybody short term, or are we gonna wait until we actually have an attorney July 1st?
So 2 questions. One, Christina, did the return receipts go out?
Yes.
When did they go out?
Monday after the meeting, I think.
And how many have we received back? That they,
We've received, the return receipts, maybe half, I didn't count.
so that's a problem. What half did we not get back and why? And those are, because my concern is that we turn around and say, here's your abatement, and they're unaware, completely unaware.
Well, I've received responses that vary from people who are very angry that they even received a certified letter, to people who have said, yeah, I'm satisfied, please grant my abatement.
So if you can provide that in writing, we
I
can move
will,
forward with
but
that.
I didn't think it was for tonight, but
Well,
yes, I can certainly do that.
It's actually, I believe, and I heard from someone that it's a state statute to provide a certified letter for this. So I think before someone says that they're angry, we need to make sure that that if it's required for us to communicate through that, and we'll find time to research that, we need to make sure that we're following the appropriate process. Because I think it's very important, especially with an abatement, that people have been duly notified and have the opportunity to participate in that decision.
And if we have abatements where people are satisfied, can we add that to the agenda so we can get them
Sure.
done and
If you'd
taken
like to,
care of?
sure.
Absolutely. I think anyone who's agreed that they accept what's been presented to them, let's move them forward.
And someday we might be able to say we have none left.
But I can even, if I think that's important enough if we have to do something like we did a midweek, 3-hour schedule kind of thing.
But we shouldn't have to, because if it's on here every week,
Well, it's just,
how much can pile up in a week?
but I'm saying we've got the 9th, we're trying to bring Julie in, then we follow that with open the meeting, then we have the 16th as the public meeting,
But
so.
if they agree to, then it's probably a 5-minute.
That's what I'm saying, we could do it,
Absolutely.
I could come in for 2 hours on a Wednesday or something and just fly, or if we could, I don't know how many it's gonna take versus the all-day schedule we had.
Right.
We can deal with people who said it looks, the reval looks good to them, so they're ready to accept it. We can just
That's a
deal with
2-minute conversation
Right.
on each of those.
We could possibly deal with those.
And it might relieve some anxiety if it's put to bed on the behalf.
I would relieve my anxiety.
And a couple of people also said that they were confused, they didn't understand that they could go to the Board of Assessment review, so they're choosing to do that.
Okay.
So that it kind of ran the gamut
Yep.
of responses.
Okay, so,
So I guess, but if they go to the Board of Assessment Review, what tools do they have different from ours to process that abatement?
I can't answer that. I mean, theoretically, I have been told by Parker Appraisal that they would be there. I don't know at this point if that will happen or not.
But so the question is, what tools do they have, any different than the tools that we have in our hands to
Right
process
now, they
their?
don't have any other tools.
So sending them off to the Board of Appeal is not,
But you're not sending them off, they're choosing to do that.
right, that's their choice.
it is their choice.
And I think we can accept that townspeople are smart enough to make their own decisions about what it is that they would like to do and how they would like to proceed.
So the people that aren't happy, that we will proceed with them.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So,
Could you give us a list, Christine, on the status of, we have that grid.
Yeah, I'll give you a list.
Can you update those that have accepted, those that have requested, and then share their acceptance letters and stuff like that, so we see where they are?
well, they didn't all send letters.
Well, how has she received their acceptance?
No, I'm asking for a response.
You can't do it.
Okay. So, I don't really want to wait until July 1st to deal with this backlog. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. And,
So how's 4:30 on May 9th? In the first half hour, we do the abatements. That work?
What I'm wondering is, are there short-term possibilities, solutions available to us?
So is the whole idea of having a former employee handle those out of the question?
Are you interested in, at all, in meeting with Curtis Baxter?
No?
Because you might find that, this person has a background that could be helpful and get you thinking about how you would like to approach this.
I think that
He's knowledgeable and unbiased.
So I can appreciate trying to select an attorney right now, but I believe as we are in the crux of getting a law firm to represent the town, I don't think we should disperse elements of that. Prior to that, we're only 2 months away from having a law firm represent us. I also think that we are obligated, I believe that amount to review the lawsuit against Parker may exceed our purchasing policy and therefore requires us to go to
It
bid.
has nothing to do with our purchasing policy. You have a legal account that you can take funds from for special counsel. Has nothing to do with purchasing.
But that's the same funds that we put aside for all of our legal expenses for the year.
That's correct.
Well, I think that we should use the law firm that we choose from our RFP to make that legal recommendation for us. That's my position. Kathy, what do you think about it?
I'm still struggling with what we're gonna do short term.
Yeah.
I think we should hire an assessing. So are we back in the topic of, is it someone on site? Who do we want it to be? I mean, we keep having this conversation.
Right, and we don't get anywhere.
So let's decide that. What do we think is in the best interest of our community?
When you talked with Jensen Baird, they had a suggestion.
Yes, I contacted Mark Bauer. Mark Bauer is currently the attorney that's assisting the Board of Assessment review. So he said that, he referred me back to an email that I didn't recall that I received from Sally before she left. And Sally recommended an attorney named David Silk from Curtis Baxter. She thought that he was probably the best person to advise the board on matters that involve assessing. So I contacted him to see if he might be interested and if he would be available. And I just got a conversation going, disclosed as much that I could think of so that he had some background. And, you know, that's where we left it. He said he would be available if you chose to meet with him. And, you know, he's familiar with Parker appraisal. He understands the abatement process and matters involving assessing. And I thought it might just be somebody knowledgeable and unbiased that you could talk with and see where you want to go from here. You don't have to commit to him. He has an hourly rate that he charges, but he understands that this doesn't make him the town attorney. It's just someone to talk to.
But I think that I'd like us to pursue a relationship with our permanent town attorney to cover all of our legal matters. And I don't think it's a collective approach, having piecemealing out items, that this is going to be something that's ongoing. This is not going to be a short process to rectify what we feel is the problem.
Like I say, let's finish what we have to say.
So I guess, I don't want to, because I know Kathy, you had a thought about it, because I don't want to interrupt what you were trying to say.
I'm just confused. We had an offer, and why we're hesitating on using that offer?
I think, personally, I think that the sooner we can get legal advice, I don't want to wait 2 months before we deal with the abatements that we have. I don't understand either why we would wait. This person understands that we are not hiring them for permanent work, but we need advice, I think, desperately, from somebody who's not involved, who hasn't been involved, who doesn't know the ins and outs and all of the conflict, who can just give us the straight law as it is and let us just do what we can do legally and move on to where we can get.
So again, it seems like we're talking apples and oranges. So we want to talk to this guy. What I'm hearing is, how do we proceed with the mess we're in, not the short-term abatements?
I think that's important information to have, and I know that he's helped other communities in the past who have run into the same type of issues. He may be able to give you some counsel that you haven't thought about that might make you more comfortable with who you're going to choose moving forward.
Is he interested in being the town attorney, or just take this on
I
as a?
didn't talk to him at all about that, I didn't
But
want.
I'm not opposed to the, I'd like us to select someone who's in it for the long haul with us versus having this piece over here and this piece over here. I think, we want someone who's gonna become part of our family to stick with us, and that's, and
I'm still not hearing the answer to my
well,
question.
well,
I'm still
it's just,
struggling.
I don't know the answer. I actually don't know the answer. I don't know, you know, I think here we are, less than 30 days out from a required RFP response. You know, so what is, so,
Well, I'm just thinking, you mentioned somebody doing the abatements for us to get us through that piece of it.
separate from an attorney.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus an attorney who's gonna help us long-term.
Well, I
So
think,
I'm thinking short, long.
wasn't this attorney to work on the legal issue we have with Parker?
No.
Not, well,
specific.
Yes.
that's part of it. But I don't want you to box yourselves in. I think that if you talk to somebody who has experience with communities who've encountered issues, if you talk to somebody who has the knowledge and the background and is skilled in counseling communities on assessing practices, that you may be able to come up with a solution that maybe you haven't thought of yet. He might be able to suggest somebody who can assist the town with the abatement process. He might be able to suggest somebody who can assist the town with the pickup work. I don't know what he might bring forward, but I think it's worth a listen. You know, just spend some time with this person who said, you know, yes, I'm interested, I will open up my schedule for the town of West Bath. That tells me he's ready to work with us.
But that doesn't address what we talked about by either hiring a contract assessor. This is a whole other piece of.
Well, not yet,
he-
but what I'm suggesting is he might be able to help you kind of think about what direction that you want to go in.
We have an immediate, ongoing crisis. Let's talk to somebody who can help us in the meantime. Lawyers talk to each other. If there is something that needs to be carried over from May to July 1st, information will be carried over. That's what happens if you have to change counsel. It's not that the information that's been approved goes away.
But that's, I'm not looking at change, I think that's going in the wrong direction, changing counsel to represent us in a lawsuit against Parker Appraisal.
We do not know that we are going to have a lawsuit against Parker, and it is not helpful to talk about that. I've never met an attorney of good repute who said the first thing to do when seeking recourse is to sue somebody. They always go for negotiation, and I believe that that is our best course. So, if we have somebody here who can give us advice for what we need to do in the meantime, it makes sense to me that we would take advantage of somebody's offer.
At an hourly rate.
Concern too, immediate crisis, yes, not on the agenda.
Okay, so let's put it on the agenda. Let's put it on the agenda for a time when we could meet for this person. Call a meeting.
I still wanna know what the hesitance is about the offer we received.
For me?
Yes.
I don't know, so this is, in theory, someone who's either going, and it wasn't an offer, I couldn't physically be at the meeting for starters.
No, I'm talking, you talked to a former employee, he said he's willing to help us get through this situation. I wanna know what's the problem with the offer?
I don't have a problem with that offer.
My problem with the offer is that this is a former employee, and we have had discussions about those issues that have been left behind.
There's been issues left behind by every assessor, every employee that we've had here. I've been. Nobody is 100% perfect.
No.
I hate kicking this can down the road.
I misunderstood what you were asking me.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about the meeting that I couldn't make it to.
I'm just thinking, what
I'm not opposed-
housing do we have? If half of them have returned and some of them don't,
I'm not opposed to having, to hiring a contract individual to come in and address our open abatements at all. Whether it's our past employee or someone who is suitable from the community to do that.
So we're talking about two different things, correct?
Well, yes, I misunderstood, so one piece is the individual,
I guess that's why I'm having.
well, because I was, so there's two different elements. One is that the individual that Christine's recommending to come in and talk to us, I'm opposed to that, to them addressing Parker appraisal as legal representation, because I believe that should be done by our town attorney, which is different than this conversation. I'm also not opposed to having someone come in on a contract basis to address our open abatements where we sit with them today, to resolve them the best way we can. Those to me are two different elements. One, I'd like our new town attorney to be our town attorney for all legal business. Not just a short-term fix on Parker, because I don't think Parker's gonna be a short-term solution.
Oh, I don't either, and to be frankly honest, I'm kind of in the field that you are, the mess we're in, whether we wait for a new attorney or not, it's not gonna make any difference.
It's not.
So, dealing with Parker aside, would it not be helpful to have legal advice for us as the board in the meantime, as we deal with the short term,
No.
with these abatements?
No.
May I mention one date point that I think is relevant to your conversation? I don't know when you go to full commitment. Approximately what time of year do you set the mill rate?
Early September.
Okay, because I thought it was earlier. I thought it was in August. I don't pay attention.
Yeah, that's what we've been shooting for, but yeah.
The only thing, and thank you for letting me articulate it, you, as Steve counseled you when he came down from Maine Revenue, you can sign those abatements as the elected assessors until you go to another commitment. The ones that you have on the table, once you go to your next commitment, you three, because it's linked to this year, then you become the municipal officers. You cannot touch an abatement relevant to value in the second year. In the second and third year, if it was a void tax, if you assessed me for a property I didn't even own or a property that didn't even exist, you can do that in year 2 and 3 as the municipal officers. But thank you for letting me interject. Remember, you can't go to your full commitment with any of these abatements not yet resolved, or you lose your authority to sign them either up or down because they deal with value, or I believe they all do. I haven't read them, but I believe they all do.
Yeah, you do.
And in year 2 and 3, you can't touch value because you take off your assessors cap, it's dissolved, it's gone, and you're only the municipal officers. So if I'm interrupting, I apologize, but I just felt that
Point of
time
clarity
is a good
it is.
anchor to focus on.
Can I ask you a question? If some of these don't get resolved,
What
and
happens?
they go, yeah, what happens then? If someone's not,
They lose their ability to file for that year when you go to the next commitment.
So we have to-
I'm answering you in an oversimplified manner,
We
but in
are,
the spirit, I understand your question, I'm gonna oversimplify. A value question can only be addressed in the first year. they must file the question within 185 days. They lose the power.
So we owe them that commitment to resolve it.
Okay.
They can still go to
Financially.
the Board of Assessment review within that first commitment year, because it's not 365 days. It's when you sign the next commitment. You've mutually agreed with the appealing parties and by yourselves to extend the time frame. But you would want them all, in the spirit of your question, to file to go before the Board of Assessment review by midnight the night before you go to the next commitment, to preserve their ability to continue the discussion on value.
Okay.
Am I answering fairly?
Yeah.
So we need to deny them and send them off to the next level.
And you wouldn't have to deny them because they are now deemed denied.
Yeah.
Right.
You would be able to articulate to them, we have not taken action. You are deemed denied. Therefore, if you want to preserve your right to continue the conversation, you have no further option. You either file to go before the Board of Assessment review, or the window is closed for that year forever.
And that's a disservice.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to deny them because you genuinely in your gut are uncertain, but it would have to be accepted that they are deemed denied, and you would, in fairness, want to advise them
To go
to
on.
file for the Board of Assessment review before you go to the next committee.
Very helpful.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
So that takes me to another question, Christine. How soon can you update your list of those that have given you written acceptance? Where do we, I want to know where we stand on those that have accept the abatement as presented, those that have said, I'm going to the board to file for the Board of Assessment, for the Board of Review. So you have at your fingertips some of the responses. I'd love to know what they are and how much time, can we, if we come in at 4:30 on the 9th, is that enough time for us to address 15, I believe it is 15 written approvals that we can just,
Well, there won't be that many.
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Can you tell us where we stand,
Yes, I
you
can
have
update the list, early next week.
So I just want to ask, I'm sorry, so with what you've said, in my head, what I'm thinking is, then we have no hurry or need to come up with an assessor or by July 1st. We have time to get our attorney on board.
It would seem that way, and in terms of your pickup, because I'm sure Christine is feeling pressure,
That's what I'm kind of
that
thinking.
no one is out in the field picking up your
Yeah.
building permits. I had informally mentioned an appraiser and her husband who would be qualified, and there are other people. They don't have to be certified main assessors.
So we just need someone for our pickup.
You would need someone out there who knows how to handle a tape measure, who knows how to take the appropriate photographs, and if they can do it as federally approved appraisers, they can do that as assessors. They don't discuss assessing law in the field anyway. When you're out there in the field, even though you know the answer in the field, that's not what I'm here for. I'm getting lovely deck. I'm getting the photo. That question goes back, so they wouldn't discuss assessing even if they were CMAs. And the people that I mentioned to you carry their own remit. They carry their own errors and omissions that would cover the town. They have all of the insurance in place. And just saying, so you don't need assessors, CMAs to pick up your building permits, and you do want that done, and there are folks who are abundantly qualified to do that, have insurance to cover the town, and yeah. So it's, in terms of the rest of it, one final thought, take caution that if you have a well-qualified attorney who understands how to guide your Board of Assessment review, as Sally Dagger did, if some of these going before the Board of Assessment review go ADB on appeal, ADB, so to court.
Okay.
They disagree, let's say you've got a written guidance from Parker, this is deny it. So the Board of Assessment Review denies it. Well, the taxpayer and their attorney says, the guy's an idiot, we're going to court. Just keep in mind that the attorney that you meet with to give you guidance, if they're well qualified to work with your Board of Assessment Review, if you burden the situation in your executive session to start talking detail about potentially seeking recourse of any nature with where the town feels Parker appraisal did not perform as anticipated, you're a little bit exposing that attorney to two clients. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to expose the town to that. Be cautious is my thought. Going into two executive sessions, one to deal with, well, this is where you are in terms of your assessing, potentially what can the Board of Assessment Review rely upon when the town presents something. That would be the attorney that would continue to support your Board of Assessment Review. And don't clutter it is my thought. You don't want to contaminate the conversation. That's like a couple sharing an attorney who knows too much and they want to represent, they can only represent one in the divorce. Be cautious when you go into your executive session that you don't pull too much into one session. And thank you for letting me express that, but I think it's in the spirit of what you're asking.
So my question to the board would be, how do we move forward with getting someone to do the field work?
I like her idea of hiring someone who has the appropriate insurance to cover them while they're out there. And all they're all doing is the pickup work for the permits and what we need to get them added to the commitment. I think that's a terrific solution for part of what we have on hand.
So do we have Christine call people that can do pickup work, or?
Well, I just want to mention, in my conversation with David Silk, he did have some ideas about how to get that handled with a retired CMA. But I would prefer that, you know, if the board is open to it, that you talk with him about that. But he does have ideas about how to get work done in the interim.
I want to caution us of moving forward with an attorney. I don't think we need an attorney to make a decision to hire someone for pickup work. That gets us to the commitment.
And go with someone with local knowledge of this town.
Exactly.
You need the pickup done quickly, efficiently, effectively, as the voice of the elected assessors speaking with the taxpayers. I would caution you, you don't want someone from Cumberland County who's accustomed to larger municipalities. You want people who know this area, they know their way around, they know the people, they know the conversation, they know the lingo. They can, while they're out there, take photographs of the waterfront that they know because they have worked with it in this area as appraisers. I would strongly recommend that you take that seriously on board, even though another individual from a more urban area may know some folks. It's a very different marathon, just mentioning.
So I have a question. Are we opposed in pursuing this individual for the pickup work?
Is this a person who, or a company that you said works locally?
It's an appraisal firm that, because it's slower right now, there's nothing to buy or sell, so they're not doing as much bank work. This is an appraisal firm that is multi-generational out of the Freeport area, and they are well known by all local attorneys. They've done appraisal work in West Bath, and the other individual is her spouse, who's a retired police lieutenant, so he knows how to deal with people in a congenial manner without making a commitment on anybody's behalf, but everybody leaving happy and this is a good thing. He is starting to pick up his CMA, as I believe she is, but she's a little busier. He's the one who's really retired. So, yeah, no, they're a local appraisal firm, and I could look it up on my phone. I honestly, off the top of my head, can't remember what.
So are these two different entities?
No, they're under one business, just as Mike and I operate under one company.
I'm not,
They would 1099 you.
Yep.
They're not looking for withholding. It would be a short term. They could, Christine, do you know roughly how many building permits we have? And I don't expect you to know off the top of your head. I would guess maybe 120 sites would be my
Yeah, I mean,
guess.
that's something that Carly and John are more on top of than I am.
And I would guess
And
they
the other-
wouldn't be able to do one, they might be able to do 1 or 2 days a week. They're still busily doing appraisal work for attorneys and banks, but it's a little bit. I would expect that if you worked with them, they could get it wrapped up by June.
I'm not opposed to pursuing this at all, to help keep us on track for commitment.
Mike,
Just to give you a ballpark of what you're talking about, 120 sites I would do in 3 days. I'm faster than most,
And he knows that particular trick.
and I know the town. Many of them, you're going back to where you've been 3 times. That doesn't take you long. If you first time through, it's going to be more than that. But 4 days, 5 days, I
So-
would expect.
this is a person who knows the town
They do.
and has some acquaintance with the real estate currently.
I am
Has no-
recommending them to work in Woolwich on that revale. So if they do it for you, and the way I'm cutting Woolwich's throat and my own by sharing, but they're good. They're very good at appraisal work. And I cut you off, I'm sorry. They're not personal friends, I gotta look them up.
I'm not opposed to this.
I'm just curious as to, would you recommend a interview, question, hire, sight unseen? What's the usual procedure?
I would suggest that they be invited to a selectmen's meeting and figure it's a 10-minute chat, that they tell you publicly and on camera what their background is, what their interest is. Her name is Jennifer Watson. It is must be Mid-Coast Appraisal. I'm looking at an abbreviation that I did, my bad. I believe it is Mid-Coast Appraisal. I'm looking at my own shorthand. The business number is 207-754-9843. They very likely have, it is Mid-Coast Appraisal. They very likely have a website up. Unlike me, who has my website down, I can't take on more work. They take on additional bank work and probably have a website up that you folks could Google for familiarity. I wouldn't bother to visit it.
Sure.
Can I make a suggestion?